One Tree Hill was such an iconic show, and you were on it for so long.
Mm.
And it was it not one of your first?
Yeah, that was my first regular job. I remember I almost didn't take the show because I didn't want to miss my senior year in college.
Wow.
I thought, it's the only time that this moment's going to happen, and maybe I'll just do a show next year. And thank God my college advisor sat me down and knocked some sense into me.
It was like, listen, this school isn't that great. Take the show.
She was like, get out of here. Go.
Maybe just like as a frame, you know, a lot of people don't know what it's like to be on a set, but like we also want to get to know you more. So tell us about maybe one of your best experiences on set or your best day and one of your worst. Because it's 9 years is like, you have everything. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, people often ask me, "Oh, what was being on Gossip Girl like?" It's like, well, what was college like? What is high school like? What are 6 years of your life like? They're everything.
Yeah.
So maybe just paint a little bit of a high and a low for us.
Oh, man. I mean, first arriving there was so much fun because we were clueless and excited, and it felt really sparkly, and everyone we worked for felt cool, and they felt really interested in us, and we felt so interested in each other. I remember, Hillary and I meeting and just being thick as thieves immediately, and going to bars and being so excited because our birthdays are 7 days apart, and we could get into bars legally. We weren't having to sneak in because we were finally 21, and we could go to comedy shows. We just felt very cool. And reality sets in, and you realize that maybe your married 45-year-old boss shouldn't be so interested in the young women who work for him, and that maybe all of your other bosses who are really lovely and whose families you adore shouldn't look the other way. You have empathy because you understand what it's like to not want to get screamed at work or have your job threatened, especially when you have a family that you have to take care of. But it makes for a very sticky situation. And I think what made it, like the famous adage goes, the best of times and the worst of times, is that there were times where we all got to be at work together free, and the boss and everyone else was here in the writer's room in LA. And then the boss would come, and it was like, it was like when you hear people talk about their abusive, like alcoholic father coming home. Everyone would prep for when he would come around. And it was a really intense kind of dichotomy. But I think the sort of ferocity about justice that I've always felt, and that certainly Hillary and I share, made it very clear. We were like, well, fuck this guy. And if he thinks we're going to let him take this from us, watch us, just rage, just enraged young women everywhere. I think I found a really good outlet for that in early activism, in being able to show up and advocate for people, because I knew how toxic it could be to have no one advocating for you. And in a way, I've had to, ascribe that sort of purpose to that environment. And then, in the midst of all that, there were summers traveling to do other projects, and I was so hungry to work. And I imagine you felt this way, when you work on the same show for 10 months a year, you love it, but you're also really bored. And in your 20s, all your friends are moving around the country and taking new jobs and trying new things and, meeting new people. And we were just stuck in a literal high school classroom, losing our minds. It's like Groundhog Day. So
I was in New York, I have to say.
You guys probably had an amazing time.
Sophia, just we were having an incredible time. You're right. You were imagining everybody off doing all this. It was just like, woo, Times Square.
No.
This is what Penn is famous for.
That's not
loving Gossip Girl.
No.
Loving his time.
But on the weekends, you could sort of be in a city, full of art.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, while I fully understand what you're saying, we did have that unique thing of being in this city, in New York City. Where are we right now? No, we're in LA.
We're in LA.
I have no idea where I am, always moving.
Yeah, and there's many things I love about Wilmington. But, after 9 years, you're like, I can only go see the same comedy show so many times.
Yeah.
That's not a fault of a small city. It's one of its charms. I just think at the stage in life we were in, we all were dying to get out
Yeah.
and experience new things and new people.
And grow so much and expand. Were you playing? Were you? What age were the characters meant to be? Were they high school the whole time?
So the way that we did it was every season of the first 4 years was a semester of high school.
Oh.
So seasons 1 and 2 were junior year, and seasons 3 and 4 were senior year.
Okay.
And then in season 5, we skipped college, and you came back to everyone moving back to the city for various reasons from wherever they lived. And we told a lot of where we'd been in flashback.
Oh, interesting.
It was really fun. It was a very cool vehicle.
So you kind of caught up to your ages
Yeah.
in a way by skipping college.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so for me, being so hungry to find stuff, I would just say to my team, like, I don't care what it is, just find me a movie to do this summer. And sometimes the movies were great. Like our movies,
it was
iconic.
so
it
good.
is iconic.
It's ridiculous,
Yeah.
but it's like it's a
iconic.
cult classic. It's
Yeah.
iconic. It's
Yeah.
It
it's
really has
just the
become.
right level of teen camp. It's making fun of itself.
Yeah.
It's great. And then there were movies I did that I will never talk about because they were so terrible, but I just wanted to go and work on things.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'm like, not exactly the way to build the career you wanted to have, but it's fine. And so, yeah, to your point, it's a whole life. I mean, a decade. To go from 20 to 30 in a place is
That's phenomenal.
insane.
We didn't even have that. I mean, I was just about to turn 26 when at the rap party for Gossip Girl, and I was 20 when I got it. So that's a time. That's definitely an epoch or epoch. What do we say?
Epoch.
Epoch.
Epoch, I
Are we
think,
sure?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't ask me.
For those of you who are just listening, you missed a great look on Sophie's face. Actually, I love that. Epoch.
Yeah, that's the
An
one.
epochal face. It was definitely a period, but man, I was not 30. I mean, and I know what it's like to feel as though you're pulling your hair out on a show, and that's a formidable endurance run right there.
Yeah. But, also such an incredible thing to experience.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
As
The
is
best of
anything.
times and the worst
Well,
of
that's what I'm saying.
times.
As is anything that is an endurance run. I mean, it's an
Yeah.
incredible thing, and it's also like there are times where it's so hard.
Yeah.
Wait, Sophia, this is kind of a dark place to go, but I don't even really have a question, but maybe just want this to be out there. I think I read this in relation to your podcast. I think it came up on your podcast, but this idea that what was the network that did your show? Was it WB?
It was the
It
WB,
was
then the
WB
CW.
and then CW.
Yeah.
They had done research and found that men liked watching women in violent situations, so they added more violence to the show.
Yeah, they wanted more of a male audience because our audience skewed so heavily female. And when they started a storyline of a stalker with my coworker,
Shout out to stalkers.
I'm like,
There you
Ben, you
go.
need to leave the room for this part of the conversation.
they found that male viewership ticked up.
Whoa.
So then they really pushed that
Oh.
storyline to a
Why did they want?
wild limit.
Yeah, it's so
Because-
dark, but I
because
think it's helpful to
essentially
know stuff
Yeah,
like
They
that.
Oh,
could
100%.
advocate for more advertisers.
Ah,
It didn't just have to be women's
I like that.
brands.
I asked the question. I'm like, why did they money?
Why? Yeah, it's just
Why did they money?
It's all money.
Any
everywhere.
question, the answer is money.
But shows are more likely to win awards also if they have a male audience. So I'm not sure if that's what,
Really?
yes. So shows that appeal to women aren't even nominated as much as shows and content that appeals to men.
My
Yeah.
blood is
Well,
boiling.
okay, so all of that is more or less like that's like not shocking information here. I guess I'm just like, it seems like you guys had such a good thing going. It's such a it's
Yeah.
like such a departure to introduce like halfway through when you know.
Yeah, it was very strange, but we did all sorts of strange things on our show. I mean, 9 seasons at 22, 23, or 24 episodes a season.
Yeah, wow.
They just
lot.
there's so much that they want to do, and I think there was also a period where you can see the show shift.
Hmm.
One of the things that made it great was it was kids and families talking about feelings and relationships and their evolution and their stories and finding purpose. And then, there were moments where it got really campy and wild, and those were moments where, our creepy boss went from creepy to full power trip and wanted to be extreme and wanted to be edgy and wanted to get people talking. And we were like, but about this? This is really like,
Yeah.
I've never believed that whole all press is good press thing. And it is interesting when, as actors, you're on a show, you're locked into a contract. You have to do what they put in front of you. And that's one of the weird things people don't talk about in our business. And I get that people don't want to hear actors complain because of what people think being an actor is.
So if you're one of those people, tune out right now. We're gonna just take a few minutes and
We'll see you later.
You can download the episode.
We love
fast
you,
forward.
but this is a time for a pee break.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not what people think it is.
No,
our
yeah,
job.
I mean, yeah, it's
And
definitely not.
It was a trip for us for sure, but I will say I love that so many of us on camera and behind the cameras had a lot of gumption and were really willing to fight, for our characters and for our friends, our real life coworkers and friends. And we did a lot of battling, and we've, as much as we've brought a lot of things to light because it feels very important to do so, there's also a lot of things that we keep close to the vest because we want to protect our audience and these characters that they love. And we want them to still feel like, there's a saying from our show that One Tree Hill is your home. And we want people who love that home to always feel at home there. And we work hard at that. And if you'd told me when we were rapping and we all were alternately sobbing hysterically because we couldn't believe we weren't going to see each other anymore and like running for the airport at a full sprint, both and if you'd told me that we would still be so invested and care so much all these years later, I really wouldn't have believed you. But there is something special about it, and we try to carry that with us for sure.